Sorry, go ahead.
I'm not sure what I was going to say. But I mean, well, then what do you have to try to do in the end? Like, put a cap on carbon emissions and how much you're able to
so the way
create,
the
like
new way
tax things that are imported.
Yep. So a couple of good, easy things that have been tried and almost got passed a few times and then failed. A carbon tax is an easy one, which basically says if you want to pollute, that's okay, but you have to pay us. Right. And it's a free market solution. You can move the credits around.
That money from that tax specifically into renewable resources?
Basically, that would be awesome. That seems like a good idea. Let's do that one. And that's a totally free market approach that I think was originally proposed by Republicans. So the fact that it doesn't get done now is just, it's unconscionable. But the way to think about it is there's a carbon budget. So they know how much carbon's in the atmosphere now. They know how much is in a barrel of oil. And if you do a little math on the back of a napkin, you can figure out how much we've got left to burn before we hit these horrible points that we don't want to hit. And so we think of it as a budget. If you reframe it instead of like rates and up and down and blah, 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 and just say, okay, it's a budget. This is how much we can spend without dying, and this is how much we spent now, this is what's left. And anything else that's outside of this range has to stay in the ground and unburned, or we're done for. And as soon as you reframe it as a budget and you see the gap and you see you're filling in the gap, it changes the context entirely of like what you need to do, and especially how quickly and how urgently you need to do things. So a carbon tax is the first and most obvious one. Carbon capture and storage is another one, which is just you put these little filters on the top of the smokestacks and it traps the carbon and doesn't let it go into the atmosphere, and then you get rid of it somehow, you bury it. There's a few places you can bury it in the ground, you can stick it in a mountain. It's not a tremendous solution. You still have to capture it and store it. It's a little bit energy intensive, and it's more costly. I mean, all of these are more costly. Everything costs more than doing nothing. But that one at least stops making the problem worse. You can still burn oil and coal for a while and not put more carbon in the atmosphere, because that's all we care about. We don't care where our energy comes from. We just don't want it to kill us. So those are easy ones that actually got pretty far in the legislative process before somebody somewhere got paid enough oil money to kill them and